Understanding the importance of the Petrodollar agreement requires delving into its historical context, particularly the transition from the gold standard. This shift not only redefined the global financial system but also laid the groundwork for the petrodollar's creation and the economic and geopolitical advantages it bestowed upon the United States. The gold standard, a brief overview. The gold standard was a monetary system in which the value of a country's currency was directly linked to a specific amount of gold. Countries adhering to the gold standard agreed to convert currency into a certain amount of gold on demand. This system provided a stable basis for international trade and investment by ensuring that currencies had a tangible value backed by a physical commodity. Benefits of the gold standard. Price stability. The gold standard reduced the risk of inflation since the money supply was directly tied to the amount of gold held by the government. This stability fostered confidence in the currency's value. International trade. With currencies pegged to gold, exchange rates between countries were relatively stable, facilitating smoother international trade. Discipline on government spending. Governments could only issue as much currency as their gold reserves allowed, which imposed fiscal discipline and prevented excessive deficit spending. The collapse of the gold standard. However, the rigidity of the gold standard also posed significant limitations. During times of economic crisis, countries found it challenging to adjust their monetary policies to address economic issues. The Great Depression of the 1930s highlighted these limitations, leading many countries to abandon the gold standard. The Bretton Woods system. After World War II, the Bretton Woods Conference in 1944 established a new international monetary system. The US dollar, backed by gold, became the world's primary reserve currency. Under this system, other currencies were pegged to the dollar, and the US promised to convert dollars into gold at a fixed rate of $35 per ounce. This system worked well initially, but by the 1960s, it began to show strains. The US faced mounting balance of payments deficits due to increased military spending, foreign aid, and domestic welfare programs. As more dollars circulated globally, other countries grew concerned about the US's ability to fulfill its promise of gold convertibility. The end of the gold standard. In 1971, facing a run on gold reserves and economic challenges, President Richard Nixon announced the suspension of the dollar's convertibility into gold, effectively ending the Bretton Woods system. This decision, known as the Nixon shock, marked the transition to a fiat currency system, where the dollar's value was no longer tied to gold but determined by market forces. The birth of the Petrodollar agreement. In the wake of the Nixon shock, the US needed a new strategy to stabilize the dollar and maintain its global economic dominance. The solution was the Petrodollar agreement, a strategic alliance forged with Saudi Arabia in 1974. Key elements of the Petrodollar agreement. Oil pricing in dollars. Saudi Arabia agreed to price its oil exports exclusively in US dollars. This policy was soon adopted by other OPEC members, ensuring that global oil trade was conducted in dollars. Reinvestment in US assets. Saudi Arabia and other oil exporting countries would reinvest their dollar revenues in US government securities and other assets, creating a continuous flow of capital into the US economy. Military and economic support. In return, the US provided military protection and economic aid to Saudi Arabia, ensuring the security of the kingdom and stability in the Middle East.